saying he said there was 20 or something. I don't believe you.
And it's Austin bawling his eyes out and Catherine absolutely screaming.
Publicly talking about that is hurtful. It's like so detailed. I told him not to bring that girl. I'm trying to hold the very little peace that we have in our family. He said, yes, I cheated and she was okay with it as long as I said you don't embarrass me.
Austin McBroom speaking out in the wake of his cheating scandal. The YouTuber reacted to ex Catherine Paiz's episode of Call Her Daddy, which dropped May 28th.
And then there was this moment that changed everything for me.
Catherine Paiz is detailing how she found out her now ex-husband, Austin McBroom, was cheating on her, and the aftermath of the revelation. The family vlogger spoke with Alex Cooper on a May 28th episode of Call Her Daddy, when documenting her daughter's first haircut.
I'm in trouble, Austin. Does your wife know that you cheat on her every weekend? Does she know that you message every single girl on Instagram trying to get in their...
So I'm sure by the last video, you know exactly who I'm about to talk about. Anyway, so a couple months ago, I get a DM from him on Instagram
today because Catherine Paiz appeared on the Call Her Daddy podcast, and she's revealing what happened behind the scenes with Austin. We know their house got foreclosed. We knew that he has been cheating on her, but now we finally have Catherine admitting to it all.
In the interview, Catherine going scorched to earth on the father of their 3 kids, Steele, Aliyah, and eldest Elle, who turned 9 years old on the day Mom's sit-down went live.
Haircut. Catherine's phone died. She then grabbed Austin's to take the photo off.
As soon as I grabbed the phone, like out of a movie, this long text comes through. If you really love your wife, you wouldn't be da-da-da-da-da. And I like my brain scanned it, but I wasn't able to read it fully.
So I get a DM from him on Instagram just asking me if he could send me stuff from his clothing brand. And I was like, of course. Like, I knew who he was. Like, I had never talked to a celebrity. Like, I was pretty new to doing like collabs and stuff at the time. So I was like, oh my gosh, he really just messaged me. Like, I was just like stoked.
Is titled that Austin had cheated on Catherine with 20 women. And it makes me feel bad for Catherine because even though we've been talking about these scandals on YouTube, it's sad to know that it was all in fact true.
Austin now saying of the timing, dropping this on my daughter's birthday is crazy.
Even through our divorce, even through everything, I never heard him say the words, I cheated, until about a week ago. But in that moment, my heart drops. I'm pregnant. There's people watching us. The camera's on. It felt like, it just felt surreal. The assistant notices, looks at him. He grabs the phone from me and instantly deletes the message.
In the world of internet power couples, few names were as recognizable as Austin McBroom and Catherine Paiz. For years, they sold the picture of a perfect family, millions of followers, big brand deals, and a camera-ready love story. But now, that carefully built image is cracking. And it's cracking fast. At the center of the fallout, 2 very different versions of the same story. Catherine has released a deeply personal memoir, Dolores, and in it, she opens up about years of heartbreak, disconnection, and betrayal. From a now infamous pocket dial she received during one of Austin's trips, to suspicions of repeated disloyalty, her side of the story paints a slow unraveling of trust. She doesn't hold back, but she also doesn't attack. In fact, despite confirming what many had long suspected, Catherine still thanks Austin. She calls him her greatest teacher. She acknowledges the family they built. It's raw, emotional, and, according to many readers, surprisingly graceful. But Austin didn't take it that way. Just hours after early chapters leaked, he responded online, admitting to stepping out of the relationship, yes, but also pushing back hard. He claimed Catherine knew what he was going through. He questioned her reasons for including him in the book at all, and he suggested that her decision to speak out could even impact their children. The internet has since been split.
Said it to me. You could have just been honest with me and just told me. But it was like I was being gaslighted.
Catherine's claims first made headlines when sections of her upcoming memoir made the rounds online. After fans learned of Catherine's allegations,
some believe Catherine is finally stepping into her voice after years of silence. Others argue Austin's version deserves just as much space. 2 voices, 2 timelines, 1 broken relationship, and a public that's watching closely. So now the question is, In the battle of narratives, whose truth really holds up? When Catherine Paiz quietly announced her upcoming memoir, Dolores, the internet didn't expect fireworks. At first, it was framed as a personal journey, one woman's story of healing, motherhood, and rediscovery. But then the leaks started. Early chapters made it clear this wasn't just a reflection on self-growth. It was a reveal. In the book, Catherine confirms that her marriage to Austin McBroom was far from what fans saw on YouTube. She openly states that he had stepped out of the relationship multiple times. Not just one mistake, not one misunderstanding, a pattern. For years, rumors of cheating had swirled. Catherine always stayed quiet, but Dolores shattered that silence with calm precision. No dramatic accusations, no bitter tone, just facts. She even shares the moment everything began to fall apart, a late-night phone call she never expected to receive. A pocket dial from Austin while he was away, which led her to hear voices in the background that confirmed what her instincts had been warning her about for years. That call didn't just break her trust, it forced her to finally see the truth she had been trying to avoid. Still, what surprised readers most wasn't just what Catherine said.
His reaction to Snapchat May 12th, saying in part, "I 100% stepped out of my marriage, and it was completely wrong for me to do it."
It was what she didn't. She didn't drag Austin through the mud. She didn't launch a smear campaign. Instead, she thanked him. She called him a teacher. She acknowledged the beauty of what they built, even as she detailed the pain behind the scenes. For many, Dolores wasn't a revenge story. It was a release. But just as readers began to process Catherine's version of events, Austin fired back, and his reaction changed everything. It didn't take long. Just hours after excerpts from Dolores began circulating online, Austin McBroom went public. Not with silence, not with reflection, but with a string of Snapchats that felt more like defense than remorse. In his own words, Austin admitted to stepping out of the marriage. "I 100% did," he said. "It was wrong. I take full accountability." But that's where things got complicated, because he didn't stop there. Austin claimed Catherine knew what was going on, that she was aware of what he was going through, that she allowed it, or at least accepted it. He didn't name specifics, but the implication was clear. This wasn't betrayal. It was something she signed off on. He also questioned why she mentioned him at all in the book.
Asking about Austin's response over time, Catherine says,
It never felt apologetic, ever. Even through our divorce, even through everything, I never heard him say the words, "I cheated," until about a week ago when that first chapter of my book came out.
Saying it should have focused on her journey, not on dragging his name into it. He even suggested that her decision to publish these stories could harm their children, calling it dangerous. Suddenly, the tone shifted. What had started as Catherine quietly reclaiming her story became a full-blown battle of narratives, and fans were left stunned, not just by Austin's response, but by the timing and tone of it. Many pointed out that Catherine hadn't even gone after him in the way she could have. She had facts, she had moments, she had every reason to lash out. But she didn't. Instead, she chose grace. And still, Austin came out swinging. Was it guilt? Was it frustration over being exposed? Or was it an attempt to rewrite the story before the public could finish reading hers? Whatever the reason, Austin's version didn't go unnoticed. But it also didn't land the way he expected. Because while he was doubling down online, the internet was already asking, why react so strongly if you've already admitted what happened? This wasn't just any phone call. According to Catherine, the unraveling began with a moment so random, it almost felt like fate. A late-night pocket dial from Austin while he was away on a trip to Miami. No words, no explanation, just noise. But not the kind of noise you expect from a butt dial. What Catherine heard on the other end stopped her cold. Laughter, music, and the unmistakable sound of women in the background.
And when I heard the words, I was like, oh my God, finally I heard it. Thank you so much. That was all I was waiting for. Thank you. That's all I needed to hear. You could have just said it to me.
It didn't sound like a business trip. It sounded like a party. And not the kind that's easy to explain. Catherine says that call was the tipping point. She had felt off before. Moments that didn't add up, behaviors she couldn't quite shake. But that accidental call, it gave her confirmation. A truth that no longer needed to be hidden or guessed. And it didn't come from an argument or an admission. or a dramatic confrontation. It came through silence, through the sound of life happening on the other side of the line. She didn't confront him right away. Like many people in her position, she tried to rationalize it, tell herself it could have meant something else, that maybe it wasn't what it seemed. But deep down, she knew. That call triggered what she later described in Dolores as the shift. The moment she stopped defending the illusion and started facing the reality. And even now, the full details of what she heard remain a mystery. She's never played the recording. She's never gone into graphic detail. But that's what makes it more powerful, because it wasn't about what she heard. It was about what she felt in that moment. And from that point on, things were never the same. If the pocket dial opened the door, Dolores kicked it wide open. In her memoir, Catherine doesn't just hint at infidelity, she confirms it. She says there were at least 3 confirmed instances where Austin stepped out of the marriage. But privately, her gut told her it was more. A lot more. According to Catherine, the real number could be closer to 20. That's not speculation. That's what she gathered through years of patterns, missed explanations, and moments that didn't quite add up. While Austin admits to making mistakes, Catherine says those mistakes weren't just slip-ups, they were a routine, a lifestyle.
You could have just been honest with me and just told me. But it was like I was being gaslighted.
Speaking about how many women Austin cheated with, Catherine admits,
I know for sure of 3.
She even shares one especially alarming moment. During a haircut for their daughter, she saw a message on Austin's phone that read, "If you really loved your wife, you wouldn't be..." The rest of the message, deleted, gone before she could finish reading. That text, and the silence that followed, was a turning point. Then came whispers about a charity event, rumors of someone else showing up with him, stories about yacht parties and secret trips. Catherine never named names, but she didn't have to. The pattern was there, and readers could connect the dots. What makes this chapter of her story so compelling is that she doesn't scream the allegations, she lays them out, calm, measured, letting the facts speak for themselves. Meanwhile, Austin's version of events leans heavily on the idea that it wasn't that deep, that Catherine knew what he was dealing with, that somehow it was mutual, that it was understood. But when you stack her stories against his admissions, the contrast becomes hard to ignore. And fans started asking the one question that changes everything. If there was nothing to hide, why are there so many pieces missing? While the internet was still unpacking Dolores, Austin McBroom had already moved on. Or at least, moved in. Enter Alexa Mal, Austin's new girlfriend, and now, unofficial co-star. The two have been live streaming almost daily, letting viewers peek into their relationship in real time. But instead of clearing his name, many believe Austin's live broadcasts have only made things messier. And in the eyes of fans, karma might already be rolling. There's one viral clip that says it all. Austin casually brings up the idea of proposing within a year. Alexa's reaction, a polite nod, and a look that could freeze a camera lens. No excitement, no spark, just blank. Then came the stream where Austin jokingly told viewers not to bring 6 dudes to a party. He said people should bring girls instead, while Alexa sat right there listening. Her face didn't move much, but the internet caught everything. Side-eye, silent judgment. And thousands of viewers asking, is this déjà vu? It wasn't just the comments either. Fans started pointing out smaller things too, like the fact that Austin doesn't seem to know how to use Apple Pay, order food.
Like, for sure. I know personally of women. I don't know them personally, as I'm friends with them, but I know who they are. I saw some headline things saying he said there was 20 or something.
Or even get an Uber on his own. Viewers say Alexa looks more like his manager than his partner half the time. She often corrects him, challenges him, and, at least from what people see, seems mildly fed up. And then came the moment that really hit a nerve. Austin calling her baby, the same pet name Catherine used for him for years. The internet noticed immediately, and so did he. On stream, Austin promised never to say it again, calling the word garbage and officially retired. But it was already too late. The comparisons had started, and viewers were asking if history was already repeating itself. Because what's happening on camera now looks a little too familiar to what Catherine was living through off camera back then. By this point, the details were stacking up. Catherine's memoir wasn't built on speculation. It was built on moments. Moments that slipped through the cracks, left just enough evidence, and then vanished before anyone could ask questions. Like the time she saw a message on Austin's phone during their daughter's haircut. It read, "If you really loved your wife, you wouldn't be..." The sentence never got to finish. Austin deleted it right in front of her. No context, no conversation, just a sudden wipe and silence. Catherine admits she stayed quiet then. She didn't confront him immediately. She wanted to believe it wasn't what it looked like. But deep down, she knew. And then there were the charity whispers.
So here was our conversation on Instagram. I mean, it was just typical like collab DM. I did find it a little weird and unnecessary that he needed to text me afterwards.
Rumors began swirling that Austin had shown up at a high-profile charity event with someone else. Not a friend, not a colleague, someone Catherine didn't know. People close to the situation claimed he was seen getting a little too comfortable at an event meant to raise money for kids. Catherine doesn't name names. She doesn't confirm every story, but in Dolores, she mentions hearing from insiders, people close enough to know, people who finally decided to speak. What makes this chapter so powerful is what Catherine doesn't do. She doesn't list every mistake, she doesn't post receipts, she doesn't call him names. Instead, she paints a picture of confusion, loneliness, and the slow realization that the person you thought had your back might have been standing on the other side the whole time. It's not a smear campaign. It's not revenge. It's someone finally choosing truth over silence, even when it's messy, even when it hurts. And with every new story the public pieces together, it becomes harder and harder to ignore the one thing Catherine never needed to say out loud. This wasn't just one mistake, it was a pattern that never stopped. While Austin was going live and doubling down, Catherine took a completely different route. After the breakup, after the book, after the storm, she disappeared, not into silence, but into nature. That's where she met Igor 10. No, he's not an influencer. He's not chasing followers or sponsorships. In fact, Igor doesn't even use social media. He's a spiritual guide, someone Catherine met in the Amazon rainforest, far from LA, far from drama, and miles away from the chaos of vlogs and clickbait. According to Catherine, meeting Igor wasn't just romantic.
So we text, he asks me if I'm going to be in LA anytime soon, and I'm like, yeah, I can be in LA if it means you personally hand me the package, of course.
It was healing. For the first time, she was with someone who didn't want to film everything, fix everything, or sell a version of perfection. She describes Igor as calm, grounded, and completely unbothered by fame. No ring lights, no curated captions, just peace. And for someone who spent years living under the constant glare of the public eye, that peace felt like freedom. Fans have been calling it her real glow-up. Not a PR stunt, not a quick rebound, but a genuine rebirth. Emotional, spiritual, and deeply intentional. Catherine's relationship with Igor stands in direct contrast to what she had before. And it shows. In interviews, in her book, and in subtle glimpses shared online, she looks more centered than ever. This isn't about proving a point or showing the world she's won. It's about reclaiming space, about choosing something different after surviving something difficult. And for viewers who watched her smile through chaos for years, this new chapter feels more honest than any Ace family vlog ever did. Because sometimes the strongest move isn't clapping back, it's walking away completely. The Ace family once stood at the top of YouTube royalty. Millions of subscribers, a mansion tour that felt like a dream, a brand built on love, laughter, and viral content. But now, that empire is barely holding on. Since Catherine and Austin's official split in early 2024, their channel has gone quiet. No more weekly uploads, no more family challenges, just a digital time capsule of a life that's moved on. Catherine's book Dolores changed the conversation. It wasn't just about their breakup, it was about what the curated content never showed, the slow disconnection.
So I go to LA by myself, and I'm gonna have to do part 2. Okay, so here's part 2. So I get to LA, I'm staying in a hotel completely by myself. We're texting a little bit throughout the day, like, you know, kind of like seeing what I keep asking what the plans are later and like what exactly we're doing, and he kind of just keeps beating around the bush.
the silences behind the scenes, the emotional weight of pretending everything was okay for the camera. Meanwhile, Austin's public image has taken a hit. His live streams with Alexa may be entertaining, but to many, they're exposing more than repairing. Every offhand comment, every awkward moment, every attempt at humor now gets dissected by a very different audience, one that's no longer rooting for him the way they once did. And perhaps most surprising of all, Catherine never tried to cancel him. She told her story, gave him credit for what they built, and left the rest unsaid. She didn't need to prove she was right. She just needed to be honest. Now, with Dolores in readers' hands and the dust starting to settle, fans are left wondering, what's next? Will Austin try to rebuild? Will Catherine ever return to YouTube? Will the Ace family brand fade into nostalgia or spark a new era built on truth? Whatever happens, one thing's clear. The story isn't just about what happened behind the scenes, it's about who had the courage to speak when silence was easier. And in this battle of narratives, the audience is no longer just watching, they're deciding. In the end, Catherine Paiz and Austin McBroom didn't just live two different lives, they told two very different stories. Catherine's truth came in pages, quiet, composed, and written with clarity. She didn't scream, she didn't drag, she simply spoke. And what she shared about the pocket dial, the trust breaks, the quiet unraveling, felt less like revenge and more like release. Austin's truth came in videos, fast responses, public justifications, a tone that swung between ownership and deflection. For every apology, there was a follow-up. For every admission, a counterclaim. So now we're left with a question only the public can answer. Whose version holds weight? Whose story feels real? Not because one was louder, but because one was lived without needing to shout. Maybe that's what makes Dolores so powerful. It wasn't about proving Austin wrong. It was about no longer pretending she was okay. And that pocket dial? It wasn't just a mistake. It was a mirror. One that reflected everything they had been trying to hide. Because in the end, the truth doesn't always come out in one big explosion. Sometimes, it sneaks in quietly, through a call you never meant to make.